Counsel, what will the city do if you don't prevail here?
The city's hands will be tied. It will be forced to surrender its public spaces as it has been. Unfortunately, beds are going unused at the Gospel Rescue Mission. People are not getting the help that they need. The city is under an injunction here, and it's unable to rely on these basic ordinances. And the Ninth Circuit's decisions give cities like Grants Pass no guidance about how they can navigate this very challenging area. The Ninth Circuit has effectively imposed a municipal code under the Ninth Circuit's Martin Rule to regulate what the city can do in its public spaces.
Counsel, can I just stop you a moment? The gospel unused beds, they're less than 100, right?
That's correct.
And there's thousands of homeless.
There are, I believe, as many as 600 in Grants Pass, according to the district court.
But there's still only less than 100 beds.
That is right.
Now, can I stop you a moment? You are not asking us to overturn Robinson, correct?
We think Robinson was wrongly decided and should not be extended, but we don't think that the court needs to overrule it here. Because
assuming it's there, it prohibits you criminalizing homelessness, right? So what you do is say only homeless people who sleep outdoors will be arrested. That's the testimony of your chief of police, two or three officers, which is if you read the crime, it's only stopping you from sleeping in public if you, for the purpose of maintaining a temporary place to live. And the police officers testified that that means that if a stargazer wants to take a blanket or a sleeping bag out at night to watch the stars and falls asleep, you don't arrest them. You don't arrest babies who have blankets over them. You don't arrest people who are sleeping on the beach, as I tend to do if I've been there a while. You only arrest people who don't have a second home. Is that correct?
Well,
who don't have a home.
So, no, these laws are generally applicable. They apply to everyone.
That's what you want to say. Give me one example, because your police officers couldn't. And they explicitly said, if someone has another home, has a home, and is out there and happens to fall asleep, they won't be arrested. Fall asleep with something on them.
Well, Joint Appendix, page 98, is one example of a citation issued to a person with a home address. But more importantly, I think what we're getting at here is that these laws regulate conduct of everyone. There's nothing in the law that criminalizes homelessness. I really
That's what you say, but if I look at the record and see differently, it's a different argument, isn't it?
Grants Pass policy actually very clearly says that being homeless is not a crime, and that's in...
I know that's what you say, but if you're enforcing it only against the homeless, I will suggest that you look, there's one brief, let me see if I can find it, that talks about this. At any rate, I'll find it later and just mention it. The second thing I want to ask you is, you seem to start by saying that the Eighth Amendment is limited to forms of punishment and not to the nature of punishment, the proportionality issue. There also is a number of amicus brief that lays out for us that from the Magna Carta, through the founding, through state laws, through Weems, which was in 1910, through Trop later in the century, that throughout all of that, both the English, American colonies, this court, has had some form of proportionality in their Eighth Amendment jurisprudence. You're asking us to ignore all of that history.
No, we're not, Justice Sotomayor. What we are saying is that this case doesn't implicate proportionality. We're not asking the court to take a position on whether it's a proper inquiry under the Eighth Amendment. For example...
Oh, yes, you are, because you're saying that the only thing that's prohibited by the Eighth Amendment is the form of punishment. But in those cases, And in our history, we have said that certain punishments, chalk, for example, can't be done.
That's right, and the court has always looked at if a particular punishment is considered too extreme or categorically so, as in the death penalty in some cases, the court looks at whether a lesser punishment would be acceptable. Again, it's looking at punishment, and that's where the inquiry focuses here. Only what the respondents are asking this court to do is to extend Robinson beyond.
Do you have hotels that are valued at $200, $250 in your city? Just answer yes or no.
I don't know.
Well, let's assume, because even in New York City, which may be the most expensive city in the nation or close to it, there are hotels that are less than that or at that price. If a homeless person had that kind of money, don't you think they'd stay in a hotel?
So, Justice Sotomayor, the difficulty here is that this rule that the respondents are proposing rests on whether someone's conduct is involuntary. Most importantly here, we're talking about conduct, so I want to talk about how this is completely distinguishable from Robinson.